Differential feed can help with fabrics that are super stretchy or even very light and slippery. So what we have here are two sets of feed dogs. If you lift up your presser foot and look in from the side, you'll notice you have two sets in the back and two sets in the front. And here's where we actually adjusted. So when you actually sew, if you've ever been sewing along and things come out a little bit wavy or not really even at the end, so you start off with even edges, but they come out a little bit not, or even just when the fabric starts to flute, this is definitely a job for the differential feed. Now in this fabric it's not too big, but as you get further and further down a longer row, you're going to notice that that wave is going to get even more pronounced. So what we want to do is we want to help the fabric kind of get eased in. What's happening is it's getting stretched out between the time it goes underneath the foot and before it actually gets to the needles. So when you're stitching it, it's actually being pulled. Well, you're not pulling it, but the serger is because of the distance from the front of the foot to the back. It's a really long foot, much longer than your sewing machine. So to offset this or to fix it, you'll notice your differential feed is kind of like a ratio. You start at 1.0, like a 1-to-1. Those feed dogs are pulling in simultaneously. As we increase it, and we should be able to go up to 2.0, let's see if this one goes a little higher. Nope, 2.0. That means that the front feed dog is going to pull in twice as much fabric as the one behind. So that's going to help ease in those fleeces, stretchy fabrics that are not kind of coming out nice and flat. Now for this fabric, I don't need to be all the way up at that highest position, even like a 1.5. What's going to do is kind of help push it together before it actually gets stitched. It'll actually make it even easier to sew. It's kind of easing it in. Now if you go too much, it'll actually look like it's been pushed in too far. So after running your little test samples, you can decide where that happy medium is for your fabric. Look how flat that is. Ta-da! I didn't have to do anything except know what differential feed is. We'll also use differential feed for some gathering too. But let me show you what the reverse is. So you notice that we start at 1.0 or N for normal, but then it goes the opposite way. It goes down to a 0.6. So when fabrics are getting gathered, and they're not supposed to be, this is where you can help it not feed so fast. You're almost going to take that front feed dog and go, whoa, don't feed so quickly. So for example, let me just run, let's see here, let me go back to a normal stitch length. I made that stitch length a little longer on the heavier fabric, so not so many stitches are going back and forth as it's trying to feed such a bulky fabric. So just kind of back to a normal stitch length. But what happens with this fabric is, number one, the top usually it looks okay, but the back starts to have these little waves. In some fabric, it's going to look more than the other. So as I open this up, do you notice the little crinkles or ruffles that have started on that lower level? That's because it's getting fed too fast, because it's slippery. Lightweight fabrics, rayons, polyesters, satins, those are all going to have some issues there. So what we can do is go ahead and set that to be the reverse, and then that way it's going to help flatten that out as we go. So you definitely will want to use that when you're having trouble getting those fabrics to line up and to get the perfect results.